With free agency starting in 3 days, I thought it would be a good idea if I could predict where the top free agents will land next season. This offseason has already been crazy, so I expect free agency to just be as bizarre. So, with that, I'm going to be picking my top 10 free agents and predicting which new team they could land on. So, no re signing with old teams because what's the fun in that? Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe so I can keep growing this channel and pushing out better content for y'all. But let's get right into it. My first player of the video is going to be Jalen Duren, and I kind of talked about him in my last video. I'll put the link in the description for that, but I have him going to the Chicago Bulls. I feel like he provides the exact interior presence, elite rebounding, and pick and roll finishing, which they desperately need to anchor their rebuild. I also think Jalen fits the future of the Bulls. Pairing him alongside Caleb Wilson would make the Bulls' rim protection one of the best in the NBA. He's also a great lob threat, and he would elevate Josh Giddey to be an even better playmaker. I just love the idea of Jalen Duren in Chicago, and he also fits the age range where the Bulls are trying to build off of. So, if the Bulls do land him, I could see them being a play-in team at best. So, my next player is going to be another Piston, Tobias Harris, and I have him going to the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte desperately needs a reliable wing and forward depth. Harris provides a plug-and-play veteran presence who can start or play behind Miles Bridges. He can mentor the younger guys, and having another good scorer on this team is crucial because you never know with the injury concerns of Brandon Miller, and if Conklin is having a bad night, this offense goes completely blank. Tobias Harris has also been the best scorer on many playoff teams. So if the Hornets do make the playoffs, having a veteran scorer with Tobias Harris would be helpful. They also have a massive financial flexibility, so risking Tobias Harris's contract wouldn't set them back financially. If they do land him, I could see the Hornets having another play-in season, but maybe making it out because of Tobias Harris's veteran presence. My next player is going to be Peyton Watson, and I have him going to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are in desperate need of a two-way 3-and-D wing, and because Watson is a Beverly Hills native who played at UCLA, he has good ties with the city. Peyton Watson is one of the most underrated defenders, and the Lakers kind of lack that defensive spark. He is also a decent scorer who has played on a championship caliber team in the Denver Nuggets. Payne Watson's contract wouldn't be a big spend and is looking at 22 to 30 million a year. The Lakers also might lose Rui Hachimura, who we'll talk about later in this video, so having another defensive wing like Peyton Watson wouldn't be a solid idea. He's also 23 years old, and the Lakers kind of lack age on their team. He's also not injury riddled, and the Lakers battle with a lot of injuries, so he could be a reliable player for them all year round. If the Lakers land him, I don't see them getting too much better than last season, but having a good defender might not hurt. The next player is Norman Powell, who was surprisingly not involved with the Giannis trade, and I have him going to the Detroit Pistons. They desperately need a reliable offensive weapon to relieve pressure from Cade Cunningham, and Powell's ability to create his own shot or space the floor makes him a perfect target. Norman Powell is also a veteran piece and can replace the Tobias Harris role perfectly. Right when he comes in, he could be a 20-point scorer per night. And Norman Powell was an all-star last season for the first time in his career, so he's already proven to be an elite scorer and shooter. If the Pistons land him, I could see them being even better than what they were last season. I am super high on Norman Powell, and I believe he's one of the most underrated players in this league. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but that's not what the Pistons necessarily need. They already have elite defenders like Asir Thompson and Jalen Duren if he stays. So with him, I could see the Pistons reaching the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe even the finals. My fifth player is one of the most elite scorers of the past decade, and that's James Harden. After one season with the Cavs, he's already exploring his options, and I have him going to the Orlando Magic. The Magic have unlimited cap space and desperately need an elite scorer. Having James Harden around these young stars could elevate this team as a contender in the East. The only problem I do have with this is in the postseason, James Harden forgets how to play basketball and can't score, and that's what the Magic need. The defense is already there for Orlando. If they can just get the offense rolling, they would be a scary team. James Harden would elevate the three-point attack, which is non-existent. So this is probably the best fit for James Harden, but he's probably going to stay with the Cavs, if I had to guess. The next player is Walker Kessler, and I have him headed to Boston. The Celtics are actively seeking front court size. Kessler could serve as an elite defender anchor in the rotation, stepping in to block shots and secure glass. Neemias Queta, who's also exploring free agency, so the Celtics do need a rim protector. They were at their best when they had a big man shooter in Kristaps Porzingis in that finals run, and getting Walker Kessler would make them a contender once again. He's also a great lob threat, and he's 7'2", so it kind of makes up for that size needs with Queta leaving. He's also 24 years old, so they could hold on to him for a while, and he's also one of the best rebounding bigs in the league, averaging 10.5 boards last season. He also is an efficient scorer, shooting 70% from the field. If the Celtics do land him, I could see them being really good contenders next year in the East. Maybe possibly a finals run. My next player is Rui Hachimura, who is one of the best shooting power forwards in the entire NBA, and I have him headed to my favorite team, the San Antonio Spurs. I think the Spurs need more bench shooting, and I don't believe Keldon Johnson will put up the same numbers as he did last season, so having another great shooter behind Julian Champagnie and Devin Vassell wouldn't be a bad idea. Because in the finals, when the three-point game went stagnant, the Knicks came back every single game. So Rui is a more consistent shooter than those guys, and he's also an elite floor spacer, which could never hurt. He also has good size and length, so if the Spurs want to play small ball, he could be that bigger defender to fit that role. If Rui ends up on the Spurs, I think he could push us to maybe a finals win. The eighth player I have on my list is Zach LaVine, who I will be moving to the Golden State Warriors, and this is kind of more of a fun one. Zach is a highly efficient scorer on a great volume, shooting 39% from behind the arc last season, which fits Steve Kerr's game plan of high volume behind the three. And Zach LaVine's contract isn't the best, but if the Warriors move on from Draymond and Kristaps Porzingis, they would try and bring in Zach LaVine so they can make one more effort to reach a chip with Steph. The trio of Steph, Jimmy Butler, and Zach LaVine would be an electric trio. So I don't think this one would really happen because of the contract disputes, but it's not impossible. The next player is Mitchell Robinson, who won a championship with the Knicks, and I have him moving across town to Brooklyn, who needs lots of help at the big position after getting rid of Nick Claxton. Mitchell Robinson emerged as one of the best defending, rebounding bigs who elevated the Knicks to a championship level team. The Nets also have the most cap space of all time, so I could see them being very active this free agency. I believe the Nets will be decent next season, and I do think they're being slept on a little bit, but if you look at their roster, it's a lot more promising than last season. So things are looking up in Brooklyn, but having Mitchell Robinson could make them a 10 or maybe a 9 seed, possibly making the play-in or maybe even the playoffs. My last player on this list is probably the most anticipating to wait for this offseason, and it's no other than LeBron James himself. It just feels like he could possibly be on every team next season, but I'm going to have him in this scenario go to the Denver Nuggets. He, alongside the best passing big of all time, Nikola Jokic, and one of the best scorers in Jamal Murray, can make this team an all-star roster. I know the Nuggets don't have a lot of cap space, but they can make some things work to have the best basketball player to ever touch a court. This also is more of a fun one that I don't think will likely happen, but as a sports fan, you could only dream of Jokic throwing lobs to a 42-year-old LeBron. So that will be it for today's video. Let me know if you like this kind of prediction content, but make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so I can keep pushing out better content for y'all. That's going to wrap it up. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.